This episode of the Accounting Insiders podcast is brought to you in part by Xero. Xero is a powerful cloud accounting software that improves efficiencies across your practice. With all client data stored on a single unified ledger, you and your clients can easily access and collaborate on the same set of books. Xero's advisor tools and automation solutions reduce time-consuming manual tasks and put data entry on autopilot. Work faster and more efficiently than ever before with Xero. Visit xero.com/accounting insiders to learn more. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Accounting Insiders podcast. My name is Gary DeHart. I am the host of the Accounting Insiders podcast and the publisher of Insightful Accountant. And we have a return guest today, Blake Grewal, who is the founder and CEO of Customer IQ. When you were on before, it was a different company name, right?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. And so people may have heard of that name. What was it called before?
Bold growth.
Okay, there we go. Bold growth. All right. And Customer IQ does journey mapping or customer journey mapping primarily for companies and businesses focused in the service space, could be accounting firms and other firms, again, primarily looking in that local market. And I do want to talk about that a little bit while we have you on here. So welcome. Thanks for coming back on the podcast, and we'll just talk a little bit further on what you guys are up to and what customer journey mapping is and how it fits into the accounting space.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks for having me on again.
And again, you're in the upper Midwest, right?
Yes, I am in Michigan.
All right, so it's February the 24th, 2025. My wife just stuck her head in. I'm going out for a walk at 65 degrees here. What do you have there?
Today we've actually had a heat wave. It's in the low 40s compared to what it's been, though. We had a couple weeks here where it's been absolutely brutal, so I'll take it.
Right. Any day. Yeah, we had the same thing a few weeks ago, and I moved my office upstairs because the basement was just freezing.
Yeah.
And I haven't made it back downstairs yet, so I'm kind of comfortable where I am now. So kind of hard to move. All right, so talk to me about customer journey mapping. I think I know what it is. I kind of have an idea, but tell me what it really is and what all is involved in that.
Yeah,
and
cool.
why it's important.
Yep, I can go to, I'll start out with the three main benefits that I really see as an overview. One is when we build out these maps, it helps firms visualize their entire customer experience from start to finish, looking at the different interactions and touch points that are happening. Sometimes I realize that firms may not know all the touch points, interactions that are happening in their business with their clients, which is super important. And I find that really helps keep the experience top notch and keeps everyone on the same page. I'm sure people listening to this podcast that have team members have dealt with sometimes when there is a handoff during the client experience or journey. There can be maybe some miscommunications. And I find that the journey mapping really helps get everyone on the same page, which is super important when we talk about experiences. Second, when we're building out these maps, we like to identify areas where you should be asking for feedback. So a lot of people don't do this. And I think it's important to, while that client is in the experience at your firm, to ask for feedback to make sure the experience is as they wanted it to be, and also use that as an opportunity to find out if there's any other business opportunities that exist. Find that simply just asking those questions can, again, yield to other opportunities that you may not know. And the additional areas that we look to identify are areas to ask for Google reviews and referrals as well. So again, having that map laid out and starting to pinpoint these areas makes everything more seamless and productive, and really turns that process of asking for reviews and referrals on autopilot for businesses. And then the third area where I see these maps yield some benefit is starting to pinpoint areas where tech and automations can help make these firms more productive. I'm seeing a trend in a lot of smaller firms, at least, and the trend is that they're looking to use more smaller focused tools versus using all-in-one CRM solutions. I think why that is because a lot of these CRMs, especially for smaller firms, can be a little constraining and a little clunky for them. And these smaller tools yield the opportunity to actually provide some more personalized experiences and have more customization on the back end. So these journey maps really help look at, again, the overall journey, obviously, but then pinpoint areas where different tech tools in the market can come and actually help these firms be more productive. So
Okay.
that overall, I would say, is the top three benefits that I've seen our customers have from journey mapping.
And so somebody listens to this podcast and says, "This is the best idea I've ever heard in my life. Why am I not doing it now? I have to do it today." What does that process look like?
Yeah. So if and again, anybody can do this, which is great. I usually start out with a pen and paper or a whiteboard and really start mapping out, again, from start to finish, the interactions and touch points that I believe clients have with my business. We separate our journey maps into three stages. So the first stage is the discovery phase. So this is, as it sounds, how you're finding leads, how they're finding you, how you're engaging with leads once they decide to talk with you, how that whole experience transitions to, hopefully, that person choosing to work with you. And then the second phase is the onboarding phase. This is a phase where, if I'm asked, what's the number one interaction or touch point during journeys that you see people miss out on, it's this one right here. I think a lot of experiences are average at best. I think a lot of people are doing the same stuff, and I find that the onboarding phase is a crucial phase that a lot of people miss out on. And why I think that's so crucial is because someone just decided to purchase your service or goods. It should be an exciting moment for them. And today we can talk more about how to make that experience specifically better. But again, I think it's a key point that people should look out for. And then the third stage is the delivery stage. So this is when the project is finalized. We talk about how that looks, so you can start to build what we call moments of connection with that person that go beyond just that initial project that you did with them. So if I were someone listening and wanted to start to think through this and get started today, I'd really, again, start with a pen and paper or whiteboard to make it super simple, and then start to look at each of those three stages and how they look inside your business.
Okay. And so I would, and it's from the customer's perspective is really what we're trying to get to, right? Is so like for us, we're an online magazine, website, whatever you want to call us. Um, you know, identify the ways that people find us, and then when they do find us, what happens, right? And we've kind of, internally looked at that, and sometimes you find that it's not a very good experience. And so that as you've worked with accounting firms, what do you uncover? Are you uncovering more often that it's not a very good experience, or that experiences are okay, but they're missing opportunities to upsell or cross sell, or what are you finding?
Yeah, I find that, one, most experiences are the exact same. So there's no differentiator among firms. And I think that experiences can lead to a massive differentiator for businesses and lead
Mm,
to growth. And it's an area that I find that just most will not focus on. But the ones that do focus on it can really see a huge benefit, especially when it comes to getting more reviews and referrals. So growing your word of mouth presence versus spending more on marketing. I think experiences and improving those experiences are a great way to get those results. I find that majority of businesses, I would say, if I had to look back on customers we've worked with, aren't doing any of this stuff. And then to second that, the ones that are just doing a little bit above the baseline, are starting to, but they don't get anywhere with it or finalize the project. So they can maybe they started to work on automations, or they started to work on different parts of their experience and improving it. And that's where they left off. It's just the starting
right.
point. So
Well, because it's a great idea, right? But then guess what? Somebody has to do it.
exactly.
And it's either, and if you're a small firm, right, it's going to have to be you or a person you designate or an outsourced firm. So what does that look like? Do you guys come in? All right, so let's say we have that initial discovery call and we determine, okay, here's the three areas or three touch points that we have with customers or with prospects coming in. We go through this process with you. Are you doing the work? Are we doing the work? Combination of both? What does that look like?
Yeah, I can tell you a little bit about our journey internally and how we do it. So first off, we have different tools that we're building as a part of our ecosystem that businesses can use completely for free just to get different insights. Example of this is we have a referral revenue calculator out there where businesses can put in certain metrics and calculate how much referral revenue they're leaving on the table. That's one tool. The second tool is gathering insights based on their Google reviews and Google My Business profile. And we're looking to add more of those tools that businesses can use to, again, just get different sorts of insights into their customer experience without even having to engage with customer IQ. And our goal there is to really build an ecosystem of tools like that. So it starts there, where businesses are getting different insights with our tools. And then ultimately what we do, if we engage with the business, is we actually build the customer journey map for free for them. So this is used as a DIY template for businesses. I believe the more maps that we're building for people, the better customer experiences there are going to be in this world, which is great. It's a win-win. And ultimately, a lot of businesses, as you're getting to right now, will say, this is great, but we don't have the time to work on this, right? So that's when we come in and we have a experience builder program that takes 30 days. We go and dive in deep into the map and look at all the tech automations and workflow recommendations that we've made throughout that map. And we, on our end, put those to work for the business that we're working with. That takes 30 days overall. And then once we hit that 30-day mark, we go into an additional 30-day period where we actually activate the map and start tracking the data and feedback that's coming in from their customers and clients based on the recommendations that we put into place.
Okay. And is a lot of that automated on your end?
As far as the service goes, it's
Or you're
no.
kind of pulling that information together, like in that second phase when you're looking at and we've got all this data coming in, or are you already setting up automations to capture that?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Now I see what you're asking. Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So once we activate that map, a lot of that, as far as data and reporting goes, is going to be automated for that business. That's the only way any of these businesses are going to keep tracking this feedback and data, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to make it as automated as possible. But I really like that 30-day period after we activate their map, because ultimately, if there's any bugs or anything that comes up with the workflows or automations or tech that we put into place, we can jump in and fix it as well.
Okay. So, and I'm going to play the devil's advocate right
Yeah, of
now, and only from a standpoint, just because I always, when we have these conversations, I want to make sure we uncover as much as we can so that people can
course.
at least make a uh, educated decision on the front end. So, am I buying more software?
Potentially.
Okay.
Mhm.
And that's dependent upon what I have currently, right? Um, and your recommendations.
Correct. We'll either go
Okay.
with the existing tech stack that you have, which in most
Hmm.
cases, that's exactly what happens, or we may unravel some additional tools that could work. But
Yeah.
I am not an advocate of adding more tech if you don't need to.
Yeah. Have you found situations where you've gone in and say, you know what? Here's what you're using. Here's what you really need to use is this. Get rid of these other things.
Yes, I mean,
Have you found that?
I, I come from a minimalist mindset, and I think being minimal, especially when it comes to tech. I think we talked about this in the last podcast, but the concept of tech bloat is huge, especially in a
Yeah.
world now where there's so much software out there. So I really like to understand what businesses are using today. Try to use that so they don't have to switch to anything new, or minimize that if possible.
Right. Yeah, we definitely have that on our side. And you kind of you go back, you look at it, you're like, well, okay, here's duplication here, but this one does this really well, and this one does that really well. We were actually on a call earlier. We use HubSpot, and we're trying to put as much as we can through HubSpot, but HubSpot so they have tasks, right?
Yep.
So here's my individual task. Then they have campaigns, and within a campaign, you can build tasks. But those tasks don't show up on that first list. And then the same thing with projects. They have projects, but projects that are or tasks that are put into a project don't show up in my task list. So now there's three places I have to look. And that's not necessarily bloat, but it's like somebody
Yeah.
needs to reconnect that. Probably a way
Yeah.
to automate that we can get them all together. But so as part of what you guys do, and again, the reason this is interesting, the biggest reason this is interesting to me is one of the recurring themes that we see in our reader profile studies when we ask, hey, what do you want more information on or more content on? It's around sales and marketing. And anybody that's been around this space for any amount of time knows that, well, this is a blanket statement, so don't send me a bunch of hate mail. Accounting professionals typically are not your first ones to go, hey, I want to go sell something, or you're not the first ones in line saying, hey, I'm a marketing person. This is what I do. This is my jam. That's typically not what you see. And so it's a challenge. And then most of them are small business owners, which makes it even a bigger challenge because you don't have people to throw it to do it. So in that process, once we go through the customer journey mapping and that first 30 days, that second 30 days, so we're identifying opportunities, we are tightening kind of the chain, if you will. And
Mhm.
then after that second 30 days, am I flying on my own? Are you still there holding my hand? What does that look like?
Yeah, you're fine on your own. And we
Okay.
have a guarantee in place though where we will jump in if any bugs or issues come up. We jump in and fix them.
Okay. So from your perspective, it's kind of a one and done, or is it am I coming back? Are we going to meet again in a year to look at other processes? What does that typically look like for an accounting firm?
Yeah, we're currently exploring that. Right now, it is one and done, but I am exploring maybe doing more of a annual check-in or even a semi-annual check-in with businesses to go back in and look at their map. As we all know, experiences are constantly changing, business
Right.
landscape is constantly changing. So we're exploring different service offerings like that. But
Hmm.
right now, it is that program that I mentioned is a one and done program.
Okay. And then, and I'm assuming this is all remote, right? You're doing this through Zoom or similar types of calls.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And then, is there a particular, we're into, core accounting, bookkeeping, tax professionals. This be a good fit for all three of them? Are there any minimums that people would need to think about before they started this process?
I wouldn't say there's any minimums, and I find that this also works with any project-based business. So the ones that you just referenced, they have a lot of projects, right? And
Hmm.
that's the bulk of their business is projects or cases, etc. So any business that is in that field, I find that this works very well for.
Okay. I'm going to wind back to about probably 8 minutes ago. You mentioned Google. I guess you mentioned what? Google Me, Google My Business, and Google profile page, I think.
Yeah, so Google reviews and Google My Business profile.
Yep. So dive a little bit deeper into that, into why that's important and how you really leverage that. Because I know so we have somebody who does some marketing webinars for us on a monthly basis, and she does some writing for us. And her first webinar and article, I think, that she did for us probably 14, 15 months ago was on that. I mean, first thing she said, you have to get that squared away, period. You've got to
Mhm.
get, that's your, if you don't do anything else, get your Google, business listing squared away and then, feed it. Could you just share a little bit more about that, your experiences?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I think it's known now that a lot of people are going to Google to make their purchasing decisions, right, and search
Yeah.
for different services. I find that especially if you're a business that depends on local traffic and local customers or clients, super important to have that page optimized. But I want to further that with if you're a business that let's say you're nationwide, reviews are still important, right? Maybe you're not necessarily depending on people to Google accountants near me or bookkeeping services near me, but that review page is certainly still important for your business.
Hmm.
So in either case, it's highly recommended. As you just mentioned, that marketing professional said to you guys, definitely get that page tightened up, as well as those reviews and testimonials that businesses get. They present an additional marketing opportunity as well. You can share those reviews on social media, share them in your content, etc. You can really reinforce the great things that you're doing for your clients just
Hmm.
through those reviews. So I think it's very important, to make sure that you're asking for reviews. And part of what we do in that customer journey mapping process is make it easy. Because if you ask businesses, or I should say, everyone knows that they should be getting reviews, right? But not a lot do it. And I find it's because a lot of them have manual processes in place for asking for those reviews. So
Yep.
we try to help make that as seamless as possible, just so they can continue, on that path of continuing to get reviews month over month.
Okay. So if again, I've listened to this, I'm like, yes, I have to do this now. Where do I go and find, because you mentioned you got some downloadable resources that
Mhm.
are free to get the process started.
Yeah.
Where would I find that?
Yep. So customer-iq.co is our website.
Okay.
Once you get to our website, you'll be able to book a free customer journey mapping call. And then we're in the process of adding to our website those tools that I referenced earlier.
Okay.
I share all this stuff on my LinkedIn as well. So if you want to link my LinkedIn in the show notes, people will be able to see the free tools that I've discussed as well as
Okay.
anything and everything on customer journey mapping.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And this, this call, this discussion, it's not a sales pitch for, journey mapping or for Blake's company. It's I have these conversations because we, as small business owners, not just, accounting professionals, but small business owners, we have this challenge, right? We have so much going on. There's so many things that we have to do in a given day, typically short staffed or no staffed. And what you do and what you help people put in place, one, automate some of that process, and it helps to ensure that that what people do see when they come to me, or the experience that they have when they come to me, and make sure that it's dialed in and functioning and working in a way that helps accomplish whatever the goal is that we set out as the goal. When I think about, we've talked about doing one for Insightful Accountant, and I think about, there's multiple journey maps. So what does that look like? I mean, because we have multiple customer base, right? We have uh, the sponsors,
Yep.
so that's one group of people that we have to influence. We have readers who are free. We have readers who are paid. We have readers who are on one or multiple of our newsletters.
Mhm.
So we have all these, points in which we can, connect with people. And I imagine accounting firms are very similar in
Mhm.
that they have different, journey mappings that they would have to go through. Is Do you end up recommending, hey, let's focus on this one first, and then this one second, and go ahead and getting one all the way built out, or would we build one, kind of build them multiple as we go?
Yeah, so on that free customer journey mapping call that I
Yep,
referenced, we'll really focus in on one just to
yep,
make the most impact. But as we dive into our experience builder program, that map is going to start to widen out more. As you mentioned, people may have different services or client segments that they focus on. We'll start to separate and segment, based on those services and clients that they work with.
okay. And then do you get into, so you mentioned there may be technologies that you take a look at or recommend.
Mhm.
Um, how deep do you go into that recommendation? And by that, I mean, have you have you had situations where you've just said, you know what, you have to change everything? I mean, this just doesn't work. We've got to go from here. Keep your core accounting tax or tax and accounting software. Everything else has got to change. Maybe you had that situation.
Haven't had it where we have to call it gut the whole business,
Yeah.
but I find that businesses are typically using a standard tech stack when we go in. There's some that may want to be more tech enabled, and that's great. We can look at different tech that's out there
Yep.
and add or change around for that business. But the ones that have that standard tech stack, my first thought, like as I referenced earlier, is to really just make use for what you have. Because it is a big ask to go in and say, hey, I'm going to complicate things even more for you. Let's gut your
Right.
entire tech. So I don't like to do that. I can imagine we're probably going to have cases, as we continue to build out these maps that we look at the entire journey and look at what that business is trying to achieve. And we probably will have to say like, hey, we recommend shifting over to this platform. And in those cases, we'd help walk through and do that entire process because I just do not think it's fair to recommend that to a business and say good luck. So
Right.
we would definitely help them with that.
Yeah. Here's HubSpot. Enjoy. Right.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. So in some cases, we've partnered with automation agencies. Actually, that's been a interesting partnership that's come up recently,
okay.
especially with the birth of AI and AI agents. There's a few automation agencies that I've interacted with that are pretty interesting and helpful. So if there's cases like moving to a whole different tech platform or automations that we might not know how to put in, trying to build out this ecosystem of different people that we can lean on for that.
Hmm. Have you talked to Kyle Turriff? Have we? Have I ever connected you with him?
No, no, you haven't. I feel like you
He,
mentioned on our last call though.
yeah, he might be worth connecting with. So um, he is basically the technology arm for a group out of Canada called RLB Digital,
Okay,
and they do a lot of automations, primarily focused in accounting.
nice.
And so this could be a nice front end for what they do,
Yeah, yeah,
and to help get their customers to the point where they can then automate their process for them. I'll
yeah.
certainly connect the two of you, after this, after our call.
Perfect. I
Um,
appreciate that. I actually had a similar case come up with a different automation agency that's not in accounting, but they talked about how they noticed, and we actually how it happened was we created a customer journey map for them, and they went through that process, and they talked about how that could be highly beneficial to engaging with their customers or clients, because it can show all the other automation opportunity that could exist, for their customers.
right. Okay. Any last words before we wrap up?
Um, One thing that came to mind earlier when we were talking, I think before the podcast started, you mentioned that marketing and sales are always very important topics that people are
Yep.
constantly asking for. I always like to highlight the fact that I think every business should start with a customer journey map, or at least start with the mindset of what is the journey we want the customer to go on, and what do we want to achieve? What do they want to achieve? Doing that before creating a lengthy marketing plan or sales plan and jumping straight into that, I think is super important. So I would urge businesses, and again, this is not a sales pitch to customer IQ. You can do this completely on your own, but
Yep.
I would urge people to really start thinking about the customer experience and what they want to achieve with that before they just dump money into a marketing campaign or sales campaign. I think you'll notice that it will yield a much higher result for you when you have a seamless journey from start to finish. I wrote on LinkedIn the other day that you can have the best marketing agency in the world that is constantly month over month delivering you the best leads. But if your experience is poor or average, you're going to
Mhm.
really struggle to grow a sustainable business.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And as you were talking, it just kind of came to mind again for us when I think about, the touch points that we have and how we jumped into HubSpot
Mhm.
for multiple reasons, but you jumped into HubSpot and built some things and then thought, oh, wait, we should have done it this way or should have done it that way, or we could improve it here. But if we had taken a little bit more time on the front end and really thought about what the journey should look like or could look like, um, it would have saved us a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of hassle, and not having to go back and rebuild. And even now, I mean, there's times when we have a lot of activity, but we don't necessarily know what that activity is producing.
Mhm.
And I think, whether it's, articles that we're putting on, social media or what have you, or we don't spend a lot of money on marketing, but if we were, then it would probably, how do I say this? If we were directly spending money on it, it would probably be a higher priority to make sure that we're monetizing, getting our money back, right? Versus it's just part of what we do. So as companies start thinking about this customer journey mapping, whether they're spending money, whether they're not spending money, it's about the experience and how do I make the experience as seamless as possible, as uh, user friendly as
Mhm.
possible. And I think one of the key things that you said in the early part, and that was, how do I monetize that person the best? Not your word, my word, monetize. But if I have a client, that client really should be my best referral source.
Yep.
And if I'm not asking them for the referral directly or through an automation, I'm missing opportunities.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah. I think that to kind of wrap all of this up, and you mentioned monetization. I think a lot of businesses, to put it bluntly, are just leaving a ton of money on the table by not focusing on experiences. I think that they're not asking enough people for referrals just because they simply don't ask. It's not a part of their process. They
Yep.
don't have this journey map in front of them to use it as a guide. And ultimately, yeah, I just think that this mapping is very useful to turn experiences into growth, and not leave money on the table. And again, it's also an opportunity to help influence and make your marketing better. So this is not, I have nothing against marketing agencies. I think they're great, but I think that this helps make that process better and helps make your money better spent.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. And so I know that we need to do at least one customer journey map, if not multiple, across all the things that we
Yeah.
have. So Blake, thank you so much for your time. And again, one more time, how do people find you and find those
Yes.
resources?
So to my LinkedIn, which we can link in the show notes here. But then
Yep.
also, if they want a book a free customer journey mapping session, go to customer-iq.co.
Very good. All right. Well, thank you so much for being a return guest.
Of
Always
course.
enjoy the conversation and look forward to seeing where the next year takes you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Right. Thank you.